Cover A. I love this cover A. It's so good.
What's up, y'all? Welcome to Comic Book Addicts. Yeah, we're live. Episode 19, y'all. We got Marcus back. Surcam Stances is back with us this week. I hope
Ready
everybody...
to rock and roll.
Yeah, me too, man. We got a great guest tonight. I hope everybody is doing well. It's Monday, May 15th. It's a rainy day here in Chattanooga, but my week's still off to a good start, and I hope that your week is off to a great start as well.
It's raining here, but I'm happy because I'm seeding my lawn, so this rain is good. I'm ready.
Yeah, we needed it here too. Let's see who's in the chat. We got Brian LCS. Going to miss tonight's stream, but hope it's a great one, and I'll catch the replay. I know you'd be here if you could, man. Life happens. Appreciate you stopping by.
We might as well do it since he's in the chat there, though. The nominations for the Comic Book Community Awards did open up this past Saturday, May 13th, so you can go right over there right now and nominate your favorite channels. This thing does not work without participation from the people who watch this stuff, so get over there, get your nominations in. If you got a channel, go live and do your nominations live. It's a good time, man.
Absolutely.
Let's have fun.
Like he said, 2 days ago, it opened 2 days ago on the 13th, and it runs through, I think, August 5th. So you got plenty of time to get your nominations in, but be sure you do so, though. Make your opinion count. Let's see, we got TM Nerdy in the chat. What's up, Scotty and Marcus? Hope you're doing well, Travis. Between the lines. Yeah, tonight at 8:30, they have, who's their guest? Jinja Ninja. The Jinja Ninja. That's their guest tonight. It's going to be on Travis's channel, I think. Let's see. We got Tony Comiverse. Greetings from the far reaches of the Comiverse. What's up, Tony? Glad you could make it, man.
What up, homie?
Yeah. All right, we'll go ahead and jump into the news. Like Marcus was saying, the CBC awards opened 2 days ago on the 13th. So get your nominations in. I wanted to remind everybody that Collecting with Durs is doing his thing every Sunday. My homie Durs doing his thing every Sunday at 6 p.m. It's a Sunday night sesh. It's an open hangout for the comic book community. Just wanted to shout him out and tell everybody about that. That's Sundays at 6. My 1K subscriber giveaway will be on the 27th at 8 p.m. And that's on a Saturday. And it's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be open to anybody that wants to come hang out. We're going to be giving away some slabs, some sealed Marvel Legends, and a bunch more prizes. But come hang out. That's the 27th at 8 p.m. So I hope to see you guys there. After the live stream, like we were saying a minute ago, be sure to flip over to Travis's channel for Between the Lines. And like I was saying before, they have special guest Jinja Ninja. And I wanted to take a second to talk about Mike from Evil's Comics. His brother recently had a heart attack. And I wanted to send my best wishes to Mike's brother and their family. They have a GoFundMe actually open. I think you can check out Evil's Comics on Instagram for the GoFundMe info. But yeah, his brother had a heart attack and wasn't doing well. But I think he's doing a little better now, and I've been praying for him. I hope that he gets to back on track. But yeah, I hated to hear that. It was kind of sad news. But how you doing, Marcus? How are you today, man?
I'm doing well, man. I'm excited to talk about this book, Rad Wraith. It's a fun book.
Man, we got such a good guest tonight, y'all. Tonight's guest is an independent comic book writer and creator whose work includes the one-shot titled Self-Made Man, which I just recently found out about. I'm going to have to order it and read up on it. But he also wrote one of my very favorite comic books from the past couple of years by the name of Rad Wraith on Black Caravan, on the Black Caravan imprint. His name was at the top of the list of creators that I really wanted to talk to when I decided I wanted to do this live stream. Yeah, Marcus has the A cover up right now. But I feel very privileged and grateful that Tristan agreed to come on the show and hang out with us tonight. But guys, help me welcome Tristan Gallagher onto the live stream. Whoops, I clicked Marcus instead.
I don't want to be here anyway. Whatever.
Help me welcome Tristan Gallagher onto the live stream, guys. Welcome, Tristan. How you doing,
Hey
man?
guys, how's it going? I'm doing well.
Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah.
Glad to have you.
Hey, thanks for having me, man. I'm excited.
Such a big fan of Rad Wraith. I love that series.
Oh, thanks so much. I appreciate it.
But anyways, tell us a little bit about yourself, man. Where are you from? What do you?
Yeah, I'm from Portland, Maine. I run a comic shop, and
Cool.
I've been a lifelong skater. My comic shop is also a skate shop. We also sell boards
Cool.
there. We do all of that stuff. I'm a musician. I'm in a band called Covered in Bees. We've done a few things, a few Trauma soundtracks, things like that. You might have seen us around playing with a couple of folks out there in the world.
That's awesome, man.
And I got to do this awesome comic, and I'm really stoked that some people actually read it. Makes me really happy.
Some of us have been waiting for the third issue for forever. It seems.
Yep.
If you wanna hear the story, I can tell you what's going on. That's
what we're here for. Yeah, well, let's talk about the book first. Let's talk about the book.
Sure. Yeah. What would you like to know?
Well,
so first, I'll ask, how did the book? Obviously, you're a skater. Obviously, you have a comic book shop, so the book makes a lot of sense. I mean, intrinsically. But talk about the shop and how it led to the book.
Yeah.
Well, okay, so it's a really long, convoluted kind of thing. I mean, so the comic shop is called Coast City Comics and the Funbox Monster Emporium. The Funbox Monster Emporium, basically the idea was, before we were a comic shop, we were just like a junk store where I was screen printing. I'm also a screen printer. That was how I made my living before all of this nonsense that I did. It all just sort of like pig piled into the store that we're in now. But essentially all I was doing, I only rented a space so that I could get screen printing. I was doing crap gigs for like local radio stations and, whatever else, anybody that would pay me to screen print shirts. And so I rented a space because I couldn't do it out of my basement anymore. And then I started selling like garage sale garbage in my store. And I was like, well, I should probably name it something that kind of has some sort of junk store thing to it. But also I want to encourage people to, bring me vintage skateboards when I'm doing stuff. And so I put Funbox in it because Funbox being the little ramp system that you kind of use with coping on the side, whatever. And so that was the beginning of it. I joined with a guy who wanted to sell comics. I'm a lifelong. My wife actually introduced me to comics in my 20s, but I love comics, mostly horror comics. And I went over and joined him. We kind of did like one of those things like in a sitcom where you like take a piece of tape and you drag it along the middle of the room. And it was like, this is my store. This is your store. We're renting the same space because neither of us can afford where we're at. And you be over here, I'll be over here, and we'll never mix up. And basically he was like, dude, I'm losing money like hand over fist. You got two choices. Take over a comic shop and figure out how to do that, or you get a new partner that you've never met before. And I was like, I will figure out how to run a comic shop. Thank you very much. The other sounds like a nightmare. So I did that. I took over it and I merged the comics into the toys and nonsense and skateboards and all the stuff that I was doing and all the horror stuff as well. It was also really, I mean, obviously the monster part was specifically because I love monster movies. I like horror movies. And so I wanted a lot of monstery, horror-y crap in my store as well.
That's awesome.
I had set out to sell nothing but horror comics in the beginning. But the fact of the matter is I also like superhero comics and I like indie comics and I like a variety of stuff. So it was cool to be able to do all of that.
Cool. So, I'm also a huge horror comic collector.
I would do Blu-rays and like all of that stuff if I didn't know that I'd lose my shirt. I keep dipping my toes into it and it's like, ooh, just spent $2,000 and got like $300 back. Okay. Dip my toes a little bit more, keep getting burned. And I'm like, yeah, but it's so cool. And there's a lot of that in the store. There's a lot of like a lot of people have said that it looks like an art project in there, and it kind of does. You know, it's like I based the idea on like those Japanese underground malls where they just cram everything to the point where it's just like a visual overload, and you have a path to walk, and everything else is merchandise. And that's kind of the visual look of my store. So.
That sounds interesting.
And also, just because I am, I'm here, and I guess that's kind of the point of this, coastcitycomics.com. Thank you.
Yeah, no, I was going to talk to you about the website. I'm a big fan of the website.
We also do have a lot of like Rad Wraith stuff for people who are stoked about that. We do have we have decks. We have them like Professor Schmidt did. We got our Rad Wraith stuff on Schmidt boards and some other really good stuff. So if you're interested in that, obviously I'm a screen printer, so I did a
cool t-shirts, really cool
load.
t-shirts.
Oh, thanks, man. Did an absolute load of those shirts, and that is done by his handle on Instagram is Barf Comics. That is James Harrigan, who did the comic Auteur, which is a phenomenal comic as well. And fingers crossed, this is a secret exclusive, but fingers crossed we're going to go one-shot Rad Wraith with James Harrigan as well. So
nice, hell yeah!
Fingers crossed.
Yes,
he has said yes, but it's one of those things where when we're talking and he says yes, you're like, yeah, of course I'll commit to a 26-page comic that will take up my entire month. When it gets down the road, that might change, whatever.
Yeah, man, I hope that comes to fruition though. That would be so cool, dude.
He's so good. He's so good. I love him. Again, Dabari is phenomenal. Dabari is so busy right now, but it makes me super happy that he deigns to like step in and he's making room for Rad Wraith when he's working for Image. He's doing stuff for, let's face it, real comics. And then I'm also in there somewhere, and he's just like, "Hey man, check it out! I got you another page." And I'm like, "Thank God, thank you so much, dude."
Yeah,
and
man.
I'm always super appreciative every time. I've got issue 3 is done, color lettered, all that. It's all done.
That's good news.
Issue 4 has been written, and Dabari keeps sending me pages. I think he just sent me page 7 of 4, and 4 wraps up the arc of the whole thing. So. The book, basically, the idea is that it starts with, it's plotted like a movie. It's like Save the Cat kind of script. I can't help it. I like the way that this kind of plotting works. I've watched a lot of bad movies. I plotted it like a bad movie.
Though.
I like horror movies, so it's kind of plotted that way. And it wraps up at issue 4, and then we get like Monster of the Week kind of stuff after that, where it's just like, there's a bit of Spawn in this, where it's kind of like a 90s thing where there's going to be a new monster horror whatever thing, and it's just going to be a fight issue from here on, and hopefully a lot more skating, because this is the one complaint I've heard from anyone so far. Thank God, overwhelming. I can't handle people not liking my stuff. I'm really bad at that. But the only complaint I've gotten was that there wasn't enough skating in the comic, and I was like,
there's quite a bit of skating in the comics.
Believe me, when Barf takes over, if we get a one-shot with him, it'll be nonstop. So you won't be able to stop him from doing skating.
There is some skating in both issues. It's unpleasant skating, but there's definitely some skating.
It definitely goes down in a horrific way, but it goes down.
That was actually the reason that Scout wouldn't pick it up in the first place. The president of Scout saw the book originally and was like, "We need this thing." We did it as a Kickstarter originally, and the president was like, "Dude, we want it. We want this book." And by we, I mean me. And so he bought 12 copies from Dabari at a convention, and was like, "I'm bringing these to all of the people at Scout." And he passed them around, and then one of the people was like, "We cannot have this at Scout. This is that scene," and the scene I mean. There's no way we can allow a child to be exploded like that.
I was
grinded
to shreds. Just
grinded to shreds. You're not ready for it, man.
Yeah,
it does come from out of left field, because there's my sweet spot for horror movies comes around 1988, 89. And so there's that
Nice.
like Freddy Kruegerification of horror that took place where it's just
Absolutely.
funny. Yes, I do mean where Hal Jordan is from. Absolutely. That was
Ah.
not me that named it. That was the guy that named the comic shop when we slammed them together. But yes, absolutely, Coast City, where Hal Jordan is from. The place that its destruction caused Hal Jordan to lose his marbles and steal all of the lantern rings and reform it using only the power of his will. Yes, that is correct.
Now, was Rad Wraith your first venture into writing?
I have been writing for a while. I did some
Okay.
kids books back in the day. I did, believe it or not, I went to college, and
Nice.
I was on a path for writing at one point in my life, and then realized that there was no path to that, and I said, oh, that's probably not a great idea, and I just kind of let it go and moved on to other things. And it's always been in the back of my mind. I've always done a little bit of writing here and there and short stories that I don't put out or do anything with. There's a lot of stuff that just kind of floats around. But this was my first time really trying to get something actually published by a publisher, because there's a lot of expense that goes into making a comic like this.
Okay.
You know, like when like the Kickstarter shows, like when we made $5,000 for the first issue, we almost covered our expenses, like give or take. But like it's a pricey venture, even when you have somebody, you know, who's invested in it and is trying to help you along the way. Especially when you're a writer pushing the project. If you're an illustrator doing it, like Dabari can't live on the love of this project. So I have to make sure that he's, you know, putting food on the table for his kids while this is going on. So that is the difficult part of it, is that I have to provide the upfront. So it's just like, luckily I work at a job where I can kind of make a decision where I'm like, all right, I'm just going to work 65 hours this week and put in, you know, extra time throwing crap on eBay that we have in the basement. And it's going to generate some extra income that we can throw at this thing. And that's kind of how it's been. It's just like do a little bit of extra each week just to pay the bills and get it going.
Okay. Well, what led to Rad Wraith? What gave you the idea? How did this idea come about? What inspired you? You mentioned you're into horror, so horror, of course, that comes into play.
I mean, yeah. I mean, obviously that is a huge part. So it's a weird story. So essentially it was supposed to be a friend of mine, Derek Cameron, and I, who is credited as the inspiration. The two of us came up with essentially a very basic version of the story. We made a joke together, and I felt guilty not putting him in. He didn't necessarily write the story with me, but we were looking to put a band together, and we basically tore up a bunch of pieces of paper, and we're pushing little pieces of paper back and forth while eating French fries at a diner. And it was like, you know, whatever, just dumb lines poking together. And then Rad and Wraith came together, and a joke was made by one, I don't remember which one, where we said, somebody was like, oh, dude, it's like the movie The Wraith and the movie Rad, and they slam together. So it's like a dude on a BMX bike murdering people. And we thought the idea of Charlie Sheen instead of a supercar running around murdering people on a BMX was hilarious. And
that's
and
cool.
eventually I changed it to skateboard, and there was the joke about the ancient Indian skate park. Sorry to spoil this, but there were a bunch of dumb things that came about, and it was all basically the whole precursor to the whole thing was just the dumb joke about it was basically the poltergeist joke, you know, that joke about that terrible, you know, weird thing that pervaded all those 80s movies. And then it just kind of spiraled from there. I was like, dude, would you mind if I like actually tried to write this? And he was like, dude, knock yourself out, man.
Now, so you have the idea. How did you get it started going forward from there? Because I've never written
Oh.
anything before. I'm not familiar with the process.
It is interesting because what wound up happening is, again, luckily I had Dabari. So what I really have, I guess I also have to thank Sean Murphy for this as well. I'm friends with Sean Murphy, and he, is ridiculously well known, but he's also friends with Christian Dabari. And he and Chris were friends, and Chris had come up to visit at some point, and he brought him into the shop, and he was like,
wow,
whoa, man, you and me are simpatico. And we just started talking horror movies and stuff, and like we became friends. And
awesome.
The two of us were really on the same wavelength. And eventually he came back up, and I was like, dude, would you ever want to like collaborate on something? Because I've got this dumb thing that's like banging around. He's like, I kind of don't have a project right now. I'm like in between two things right now. I would totally do that if you wanted to, if we can kickstart the thing or whatever. And so I was like, yeah, because I think he had just finished Magdalena for Image, and he had nothing going on between that and whatever the next thing was, because he also was having a kid, and there was a bunch of stuff going on. So he was like kind of paused.
Okay. And
so he graciously deigned to work with me, who had no experience. And basically what I did was I talked to Sean, and I was like, dude, how the fuck do you write a comic script, man? Like, explain it to me. Yeah. Like, I'm sorry, can I swear on this? Do you mind?
Yeah, man, go right ahead.
Okay, sorry.
Anything goes.
You sure as fuck can, buddy.
Okay, good. I'm sorry. I probably should have asked ahead of time. But,
no, you're fine.
But basically, Sean gave me kind of the lowdown. He was like, you know what? Just kind of give a description. He told me things not to do that were going to piss him off. He was like, don't give him camera directions like you're a director. That pisses us off. And I was like, okay, whoa, all right, I got it. And he was like, basically, these are the things that make an artist angry. I was like, I won't do those things. Yeah, and then basically, if anybody's interested in trying to write a comic script, the best place to find the format for it, comic scripts are the easiest form of scripts. I went to school for movie stuff and some other stuff and music and whatever, but but I had a little tiny teensy bit of script knowledge going into this. But a much simpler version is the comic script, and it's just such a wonderfully freeing version of writing a script, because you can do it without Final Cut. Oh my God, my brain. You can do it without a computer program. You can just do it on a piece of paper. It's basically, you go to blambot.com and see what letterers like. And basically, as long as you've got what the letterers are going to enjoy, you're all set. And Taylor Esposito also helped, because he's another friend. He's a friend of Dabari's, and and also we really lucked out because Simon Gao, who's in the UK, who's our colorist, he's this dude who at the time was like not really doing a whole hell of a lot. Like, he was almost unknown at the time. Since this, I worry about him being able to finish the 4th issue, because everybody wants him. He's, I mean, if you've seen what he does, like, he's a mad genius. He's absolutely amazing. Obviously, Taylor Esposito is the best letterer in the business, so that was really lucky that I got him. I don't know how the hell he agreed, but again, it's like people knowing people. Like, again, I can't believe that I haven't thought about this. I never really thanked Sean for that, so maybe I should probably thank Sean. But yeah, it's just kind of like a bunch of people kind of, knowing each other and getting together. It was awesome.
Cool. Well, how did it end up in the hands of Scout or Black Caravan? Actually, you touched on that.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. So essentially they turned us down because they were like, listen, I really wanted this, but one of these guys was like, we don't do horror. At the time, they were like against doing anything that was really bloody. And that's obviously, that scene was over the top.
Brutal.
Like, he was like, we're not going to have a child killed in this. And I was like, well, he comes back,
Yeah, with a vengeance.
He only dies. He dies for a little while. He's back and he's fine. His parents don't even know that he was gone.
Right.
And he has the Pet Cemetery feat when he comes back, where he's got the mud trail into his room and he's got the dirty sheets.
Yeah.
but they turned us down. And then my friend Joe Schmalke, who you might know, Joseph Schmalke, he's done a ton of stuff. He ran the Black Caravan label.
We Don't Kill Spiders. He did that, right?
He did We Don't Kill Spiders. He's done so much stuff. He's an absolutely amazing writer, storyteller, really good dude.
Absolutely.
And he's been a friend of mine and of the store for a long time. Like, I think
Really
his first, he claims, this is I don't know that this is true, because I remember telling him not to do this, but he claims that I told him to go into comics when he was like, I was like, man, I can't believe how far you've come and all this stuff. I can't believe how much you've done. Like, it was such an insane move to quit your job and go into comics and just take that leap. And he was like, you're the one that told me to do it. And I was like, I think I told you not to do it, dude. I think I said, you've got a kid, don't do this, you're insane. But
he's killing it, though.
At some point, I mean, beyond. I mean, Ben Bishop, who is also in Joe's studio with Last Ronin and all the stuff that he's doing, Ben Bishop did all of the artwork for our store. So, like, the Coast City logo is done by Ben Bishop, who did Last Ronin for IDW for the Turtles.
Nice,
so,
awesome.
And he was Joe's studio mate for years, until Ben became so enormous that he needed a warehouse to house the kind of crap that he was shipping out.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah.
And I love that it ended up with Black Caravan. Black Caravan produced some of my favorite titles last year. I loved Rad Wraith. I also loved Black Friday. Was a good title.
Oh, so good.
Really good one. Now, is Joseph, is he the same one that did Phantom Star Killer, or is that somebody different?
He did. Yeah. Joe did
I love
Phantom
that
Star Killer
book
as well.
I love that book.
He's so good. And so basically what wound up happening, I'll explain. This kind of leads into the question as to where Rad Wraith is going and how far we're going to wind up.
Yes, I want to hear
and why it got delayed so terribly and all of this stuff. So I will explain that as it goes on. So Joe basically got into this whole fracas. There's a whole bunch of nonsense going on. I'm not going to get into it, but essentially he closed down Black Caravan.
Oh,
and
okay.
Because he wanted to do other things, and there's a lot to running he's got his own career to worry about, and to a certain extent he's worrying about 40 other people's careers in order to keep his stuff going. So he decided that was over, and so we were kind of left in the lurch, and we were like, what are we doing? And nobody kind of knew what was going on with projects going forward when that closed. And then we eventually, down the road, I had submitted to Scout. I was like, hey guys, are we moving forward? Do you want this thing? Can I kickstart another issue? What are we doing? And I hadn't heard from anybody, because I guess everything was fractured for a little while, and it was a little hard getting through to people. And then eventually I got an email from the editor, and he was like, hey, we absolutely want Rad Wraith. We want to publish the rest of this. We totally want to get the rest of this stuff out. So here's the deal. Even Joe told me, he was like, dude, if your book had been released 2 months earlier, it would have been, you would have had a much better go of it. It was a bad time to release the book, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, okay, that's nice to hear. But Scout was like, listen, it's been too long. We're going to delay it even further. So we're delaying until Halloween, because it's a horror title, and they wanted us to do a double issue of 1 and 2 as a Halloween release.
Okay.
And then have issue 3 and 4 in the can and ready to go November and December. So the idea is that we will have, the God laughing at plans whole thing, but it's, the plan is Halloween double issue release. Maybe, listen, again, I shouldn't say this out loud. Maybe with a Sean Murphy cover. If not, we do have a James Harrigan cover that might be the cover for it. It is pretty great. It's the Rad Wraith smashing a cop car window, doing a boneless off the front of it, and the cops are just like, it's a really good cover. I love
That-
it so much.
And this series, that's one thing about this series, man. It's produced so many dope covers, dude. So many dope covers. Even just the cover A's are awesome. But then you get into the limited 1 in 250 non-heinous. You got who is it, Scarecrow Oven? How the hell did you get Scarecrow Oven to do a cover, dude?
Because he's a friend of mine.
Really? Dude, I'm such a
Dave's
huge
been a
fan
friend
of
mine
his.
for years. We put on a convention 10 years ago, and Dave was one of our guests at that convention. And he's been a customer of the store. He likes the same kind of dumb nonsense that we sell, and we see him from time to time and talk occasionally. And so he's a guy from Maine. You know, now he's the head of, I think, the entire art department for, I'm going to get it wrong. Is it Arista? Somebody. It's going to be some famous whatever. It's going to be some big record label. He's doing all the artworks for every single album they put out. Man, so
that doesn't surprise me a bit, man. It doesn't surprise me. He's so talented.
It's ridiculous. I have that variant that he did was like one of the most exciting things. When I saw that, I was like, oh dude, you know, I don't have money to pay you what that's worth, right? I'm like, I am really worried about what you're going to ask me for. He was like, he gave me a number and then he added store credit to it. And I was like, dude,
run that.
Yes. Please, let's do it. He's a sweetheart. He's just one of the most amazing artists in the world. That cover is so stupidly good. I need to get that tattooed.
And then this non-heinous
cover.
How did this one come about?
He's just a dude that I follow on Instagram because I was like, oh man, I love this guy's art. He does really fun stuff and he's a skater. He likes skate stuff. And I just sent him a message and I was like, hey man, would you like to do a cover? And he was like, yes, let's do it. He had never, for some reason, no one had ever asked him to do a comic cover before, which seems insane to me.
Yeah, because he was new to me. I'd never heard of him before.
Yeah, if you go to his feed, he does a bunch of like ridiculous, like sometimes he does like mashup-y type t-shirt stuff. It's way classier and way funnier than like a mashup t-shirt. His stuff is really slick and smart. And it's better than it deserves to be for like he's one of those lowbrow, like he does stuff that I would like.
How'd you get there's also a cover Enzo Garza, am I saying his name right?
Yeah. He
Enzo did a cover. How'd you hook up with him? Because I'm a fan of his from Gut Ghost.
Schmalky was like, I don't know, maybe you could reach out to him and see if he'd like to do one. And I was like, okay, you know, you're on the same, he was like, you guys are on the same label. So, you know, he might be stoked to do something for somebody else who's on here. And he totally was, he was cool. I was like, man, terrified that he was going to just drag it out forever or something. I was like, I don't know who this person is. And this thing has a deadline. And he was like, here it is. Oh, awesome. Thanks, man. And it is such a good cover.
It really is, man. And I also wanted to throw out there, all these covers that we're talking about, they're available on coastcitycomics.com. They're available on the website. And you can even type in, if you can't remember that for some reason, you can type in radwraith.com and it will take you straight to it as well.
Yes, I did buy that domain just to redirect to my website.
Smart. Yeah. There's other good covers, man. Christopher Bust does some really dope homage covers.
Yeah. Those were for, oh God, I'm gonna forget the name of the comic shop. Like Gotham? No, I'm making that up. 616. I believe it was for 616. Was the name.
Oh, okay.
Cool. But they're amazing, dude. I was trying to get I wanted to get one of them and it sold out really quick.
Oh, that I love his McFarlane homage one. I like that one. I heard they were doing a McFarlane homage, and I was like, oh, great, that again. It's gonna be him swinging in or something like the issue 300 cover. I've seen it a trillion times, and the way that he did it, I was like, oh, it was a Spider-Man 1 cover, and it's way more clever than I thought it was gonna be. Nice.
And it looks so badass.
That swamp thing. Ooh, that swamp thing. When I first saw that,
Mhm.
So happy. And that's like, that was super magical for me too, to just be like, oh, like some dude just wants to do this character that I made. That's
Yeah.
crazy. That's
Yeah,
really
that's
cool.
got to be the coolest thing in the world, man. That's got to
It
be
really
so
is.
awesome.
It really was amazing. Because I
Now
mean,
you got this.
I love this thing that we have all made together. I mean, I really do. It's just one of those things. What it boils down to is that it's not. I mean, it's not the most original idea in the world. In fact, it's one of those ideas that has been sitting on the table since the mid '80s. You know what I
Okay.
mean? Like, it's
Yeah.
in skate culture, the idea of a guy Bones skateboarding thing is like, it is the Bones Brigade. It's like Lance Mountain drew that suicidal tendencies board, and it looks like the Rad Wraith. You know, like I mean, it's a skeleton. It's not the same thing. We kind of eddied him up about 86%, I'd say, from Iron Maiden. But like this idea of of like an undead skater is like iconic imagery for skateboarding. It's just everywhere. And I'm like, so somebody's going to do this, right? Like, we're going to get this story. We're going to get some sort of fun horror book or horror movie with a dude on a skateboard killing people, right? This is going to happen. No, nope, it just never happened. And I'm like, okay, fine, I'll do it. Maybe it's not the best version of it, but nobody else was doing it. Damn it! I just needed somebody to do it. I wanted,
man.
And if this never gets picked up for a movie, I'm making one, and it's going to cost $25, and it's going to be the dumbest looking thing you've ever seen, but it's going to be really bloody.
Man, dude, go the trauma route. Just go the trauma route. It's perfect, dude. For Rad Wraith, it would work perfect. Yeah, just hit up Lloyd Kaufman and just make it happen.
Blood-filled watermelons. Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, like I said, my band's done 2-3 soundtracks for Lloyd. So we did stuff for Return to Nukem High. We did a song on the Poultrygeist soundtrack, and what's funny, we were also on the Make Your Own Damn Movie soundtrack, but we never signed a contract for it. We signed a contract for Poultrygeist, and so dope, he uses our music over a thing where it's like, make sure that you always get your rights for the music that you're using. And I was like, that's a literal joke directed specifically at us. That is really weird.
Dude, that's cool though. I didn't know about the trauma stuff though. That I'm such a big fan of trauma as well, man. I love just shitty D-list horror movies, and especially the trauma ones.
Oh, my heart. I love them so much. It's where my heart is at. Another thing that I do because, you know, I'm in this world like everybody else in the entire world. I have a movie podcast, but every week, myself and my friend Matt Awkward, we do a horror movie podcast called the Funbox Monster Podcast, and it's literally just like a step-by-step blow through of 80s schlock horror movies.
Dude, that's right up my alley. When is this?
All the time. We got 180 episodes in the can. We're on Critters month. I'm on my 3rd Critters movie now. So,
dude, I love Critters, man. Hell yeah, I've been missing out.
Like we did Llamageddon on the podcast.
Llamageddon.
Someone suggested Llamageddon. It's in the comments. We
get the Llamageddon and tear at Blood Fart Lake.
Dude, whoever made that, the rapper at the end does basically the best version. So one of my favorite things in shitty horror movies is when at the end, like Monster Squad and a lot of those things, where there's the worst rapper in the world, and then they lay out the entire plot, or the worst song in the world that literally all of the lyrics explain exactly what you just saw. Like the movie Popcorn has like a Jamaican dance hall group that was told to rap for the first time in their lives, and they were like, I think it goes like this, and it's the worst thing you've ever heard, and it's the best. But like Llamageddon, no lie, the best version of that I've ever seen. That rap at the end, top tier. certainly better than Popcorn.
So we're talking about some horror. You got this one shot that I recently found out about that I guess, I don't know, maybe it was recently added to the site, because I frequent your site a lot. I've ordered a few things from the site, and I've never seen it on there until recently. And what's the name of it, man? I want to talk about it a little bit.
Okay, so here I actually literally have it right here. It's a thing called Self-Made Man.
Okay.
You want to speak of another just like really lucking into something. The artist is Hugo Petrus Pons, who you might know from Batman and Catwoman and Justice League.
Nice.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, man.
Why?
I saw that. Yeah.
Again, just kind of knowing people, but I basically had this thing. I had a weird dream one night of this story, and I was like, wow, it made me write a short story. It was like a few pages long, and I actually really liked it. And it was a weird exercise in trying to write in sort of stilted Lovecraftian kind of, maybe even like, I don't know, Elizabethan. No, maybe not that far, but stilted language that I wouldn't normally use to write something. I'm normally into schlock. So this is an attempt at trying to do something a little more real in horror that was a little maybe elevated. I don't know, maybe not. To me, the difference between this and Rad Wraith is night and day, because this is almost serious.
It looks a lot more serious from the cover.
If you wanted to call it serious, you could. I mean, there is definitely some element of insanity in it. It's a real bonkers story. It would fit really well in like a 50s weird tales kind of anthology. Essentially, it's a big long metaphor for capitalism. Essentially, it's just the whole deal is a guy who gets wrapped up in a conspiracy around the end of the Great Depression, and he sees something that maybe he shouldn't have seen, but that then brings him into the fold of this giant cult that essentially runs all of the financial systems of the world. And we see how that is accomplished, and it's by supernatural means and by some weird things that are basically big spoilers to what the story is about. But it is very strange, and it has some cosmic horror elements to it.
Man, yeah, it definitely sounds different from Rad Wraith, and it sounds really interesting.
Oh yeah.
What imprint?
Link in the chat.
Yeah, link in the chat.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Who published that one? What imprint did you
Nobody.
go with?
I just did it myself. That was a Kickstarter. I was like, I'm just gonna do this, and I got the money for it, and I did it. It was great. It was really nice to be able to have something that's just. There was some thought that at some point, Funbox Monster Comics was going to be legitimately just something that I did myself, and just putting stuff out there in the world. Kind of like. The store will just sell these. When I did it with Rad Wraith, it was nice to have something that was really culty, and it was our own thing. We made our own magazine at one point. We've had a couple issues of that, and it's super fun, but it is really hard to get anyone to see it. And when we went with Scout and they put it out, the difference between the receptions was night and day. It was like, now Dabari goes to conventions and people bring him Rad Wraith stuff all the time. People show up in Rad Wraith shirts and things, and he's like, I work for Image. What are you bringing me this garbage for? No.
It's because it's dope, man. It's such a cool book.
He doesn't say that at all. He acknowledges it very kindly. He loves the same kind of schlocky stuff that I do. And so, but it is hard to ignore the fact that he is a real artist working on something that at the end of the day is much sillier than his average work. Yes, we absolutely did do Evil Tunes, and it rules.
What was that? Oh, Evil Tunes?
Evil Tunes. Whew. Oh,
never. I don't know if I'm not familiar with that one.
Oh, it's a rough one. David Carradine's in it.
I'll have to check it out. Yeah, I'll have to check that one out. Now, okay, we've established. Now we're hoping for a 1 and 2 double issue later this year. You said, and issue 3.
And then,
and what's up with
issue 4 in December?
4, hopefully in December.
Hopefully 4 in December. I'm getting all of these. I'm getting pages in every day, so
Cool.
fingers crossed I'll get that stuff out. Simon's going to be doing the coloring as fast as he can, and you know, then I get it to Taylor and he letters it, and then I can send it in. Unfortunately, the way that this works, I'm not sure if this is the way that it's supposed to work for everybody, but
Yeah.
I've never sent this is behind the scenes weirdness. Maybe it's just because of the way that we did our comic, but I send our editor a finished comic essentially. And he then goes, "Oh, you screwed this up. You screwed this up." And then I have to go, "Oh, I'm going to fix all these things and send it back to Taylor, and Taylor has to fix it." I feel bad because a lot of those screw ups are in my original script. You know, like Taylor's not screwing that stuff up. He's a professional. I'm an idiot. But there you go.
Well, what all kind of stuff we talked about? Let's see. We talked about the comic books available on the site and all the cool variant covers. What other types of merchandise? Because there's some other cool merchandise available on that website that we haven't talked about yet, man. Tell them what else can they find?
So this is a big spoiler to the comic if no one has read it, but there is definitely a skateboard of the Rad Wraith's deck.
Such a cool character.
And we did that because he will move forward becoming more of a character. The board itself is 100% a character in the series.
I love that, man. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, it was no. I mean, it was sort of a Vampire Hunter D kind of thing. It was kind of where my head was at. The way that his hand he has the sort of possessed hand with the face on it that talks to him.
Yeah,
it was sort of that same kind of dichotomy where the board is the Wraith, but it isn't. He's sort of. We try to explain eventually what the difference between the two characters is, because they're literally two separate entities. The board itself is sort of an imp that allows a gateway to bring the Rad Wraith out, to bring this spirit of vengeance, or whatever you want to call him, into the world. And so it's sort of we reveal later what's going on with it, but it involves pieces of the ramp where he died and pieces of that place where he died, and touching it is the gateway to bringing him out. And of course, that later will become his kryptonite for a part of the book where we need some dramatic tension. And there's some weird stuff that goes on. And we did some interesting things that we had to change, where I mean, spoiler alert, at one point I had planned on doing something very drastic with this thing that made it less cute and funny and a lot more depressing, and turned it into a very dark thing that I didn't think was actually in the vein of what we were doing. I was like, that's a little over the top.
Yeah.
So I reeled it back in, and we got it. I think to the tone that I like. There's still some dark crap that happens at the end that I was like, I hope people are still on board once I let this stuff out, because this is kind of brutal. I know that Dabari sent me a page and he was like, oh, dude, I feel so bad. I was like, I know, but it's important for this to happen. And I feel kind of bad too. I didn't fridge anybody or anything, but it's pretty bad.
It kind of reminded me a little bit. Have you ever read the comic book Evil Ernie with the psychotic Smiley, the psychotic button? That's the skateboard reminds me a little bit of the Smiley, the psychotic button. Yeah.
Definitely there's a bit of that there. I mean, certainly there's a bit of Evil Ernie in Rad Wraith too, when you look at that.
See that.
I mean, it's when it comes down to it, there's only so much you can do with a mummified corpse. It's just like, when you have a bog mummy, it's going to kind of be, he's going to look like that. He's going to look like Eddie at some point. So between Evil Ernie and him, we're kind of there.
Well, what else you got going in the future, man? What you got? Anything else up your sleeve?
I do actually have a couple of things that I'm working on, but I'm not. Oh, God. So this is going to be a weird tangent, and this is going to sound even stranger than the rest of the stuff. Okay. But there is a Kickstarter project that I'm working on, and I don't know what to do with it. I'm still at a point where I'm trying to figure out what to do with this thing. It's not a comic. It is. I don't know how much to reveal of it or whatever. It's fine. It's not like anyone's going to steal this idea from me or anything. But we have it all finished, and so long story. But I used to run a store called Shellback Artworks with Steve Levine and Pete Laird of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Man, that's cool.
Like I didn't run the store. I was the comic person for the store. They had basically they had a store, and Steve came to me because he was like, I like this comic shop, and we need to have comics in the store, and I don't want to deal with it. And so as a result, because he liked my store and we were close to him, we wound up being the shop that provided comic books for Shellback Artworks, where Steve was there teaching art lessons, and like they'd bring in signings. Kevin would show up. We literally did the first signing with all of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles artists since the 90s. And then, which was a huge deal. I mean, like
absolutely.
Kevin and Pete sitting in the same room for the first time in a very long time, and like all of that stuff coming back together. That all happened. There's actually a video of it, I think maybe even on our YouTube page, that somebody made that showed that signing, and I did some interviews for it. I interviewed Pete and some other stuff. But
what's the name of the YouTube page?
Oh God, we barely use it.
Okay.
All I know is that if you look for Coast City Comics on YouTube, you might find it. I think it's Coast City Comics. I like dumped a bunch of stuff there and barely look at it. There is a video for Hobbit's Fucking Rule by Covered in Bees though, so that's an important one.
And that's the band that you played in.
Yeah.
That you did the Trauma soundtracks. Is that the same band you did? Okay, cool.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, that is. Yeah, if you pick up the Poultrygeist soundtrack, we have a song on there. The part where the zombies, when the zombies kick down the glass wall, one of our songs starts playing. I don't know if it's just because I don't know if he wanted it just because it was called Drop in the Bucket and it was a chicken thing. I don't know. Who knows? But
that's cool either way though, man. I'm gonna have to go back and check that out now, dude. Absolutely, Trauma. Classic.
It was one of the biggest thrills. We got to bring Lloyd up, and we did a thing with him. And every time I see him, he's stoked to see us, and that's nice. So, my God, we played a show after that with Lloyd, and it was such a blast. Like Lloyd came out and partied until 4 a.m.
Wow.
Like I don't know how old he was at that point, but like
he's pretty old.
We were all like, I want to go home, man. And he's like, does anybody have weed? And I was like, of course, everyone here has weed, dude. But yeah.
That's really cool, man.
So, okay. Yeah. Oh, sorry. Oh, nice. That's great. Yeah. And weirdly, another band that I played with, a band called Eggbot, we wound up totally separately playing a show in Philadelphia. And this guy, and we wound up playing with a band that was on the Poultrygeist soundtrack with us later on in Covered in Bees. So that was really strange. A band called Dingleberry Dynasty, who
nice. Love the name.
They were one of the most fun bands I've ever played with. They literally like dumped Crisco all over themselves and wrestled on stage in their underwear. It was phenomenal. Yes. That was a great show, and
sounds like
made
a show,
the stage
man.
disgusting. I'm glad they headlined.
That's pretty cool.
But okay, so that was all the turtle stuff was preamble to the fact that Steve and I did these dumb things like over basically Facebook, where I would write a bio for a character and he would draw it, and Pete Laird inked a bunch of them. And so it wound up that we have these characters that look like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles action figures. Essentially, at the end of the day,
that's so cool.
I was like, I want to do a Garbage Pail Kids series called the Funbox Monsters, and he was like, I'll draw some of those.
Yes.
And so basically, I gave him these ideas. He gave me fully drawn things, and we have 10 of these things that we were like, oh, we'll do a little, like, I don't know, kickstart like a pack of cards or something that people can buy. And I'm like, maybe that's not enough. Maybe I need to do more. Maybe we should do little mini comics. I wrote a comic about one of the characters, and I'm like, maybe I'll do that, add that on as like a tiny little thing. And then I'm like, maybe we should contact somebody who knows something about making toys and actually do one of these. That might be a little too much, but like the fact that it's like, as soon as Pete got involved, I was like, oh no, this feels serious. Like it doesn't feel like something that I could screw around with.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But that's it.
Man.
So that's the deal.
Yeah, dude.
So I don't know what to do with this project, but I'm very excited about trying to do something with it. So.
Well, I wish you the best of luck in reaching
Thanks,
your goals, man. I mean, you gotta start somewhere, you know, and you made everything else happen. So I have faith you'll get there.
Thanks, man. And hopefully, and I'm gonna make a ton more decks too. That's the other thing that I'm really like,
New skate decks.
Really going for. I want to make as many decks. I would love to basically, at the end, if I can get 5 decks made at some point, I'm totally pulling together a skate team in town, and I hope that they're all dubs. I don't want anybody to be super talented. I want everybody to be like really mediocre and go in and aggressively run at parks as a team. And I'm like, those are my guys. The guys that still do it, even though they're not the greatest skaters, because I can definitely relate to that as not the greatest skater.
Yeah, man. Well, dude, I'm so happy that you came out and you hung out with us tonight.
Thank you so much for having me, man.
Dude, man, I've been looking forward to this for a long time. I hit you up hoping that you would say yes, and you did, man. And I feel so grateful to have you, because like I was saying, this is honestly one of my favorite independent comic books of the last couple of years. I can't wait. I'm glad to hear that we got 3 and 4 coming. So I'm excited for that now. Dude, so excited, man. But yeah, like awesome. I was saying, I'm grateful. I'm glad that you got all this stuff coming out. I got more stuff to look forward to. I got the one shot I can go on the website and order up on now and check it out. And hey, but thanks for coming and hanging out, man.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. I hope I didn't steamroll. I have a tendency to just
no, absolutely
barrel over.
The whole point was you talking, man. That was the whole purpose. I've had Rad Wraith 3.
I can't stop doing.
I've had Rad Wraith 3 pre-ordered since July of last year, so I'm looking forward to that one coming out later this year.
Yeah, man. We're both, me and Marcus both are genuine fans of the books.
Yeah, I got it pre-ordered, man. I've been on July of last year, is literally as it tells me when I ordered it. So
yeah, I know. Believe me. I'm well aware that we had it all together, and it's like if you go to like League of Comic Geeks or whatever, it's like it has a release date of like July 5th.
It says April 26th. It says April 26th right now. Yeah.
Well, there you go.
Well, Marcus, what do you got coming up, man? What do you got coming up? Circumstances?
Same old, same old. I got my comic book storytime series. The last episode was our comic book dad, Lorenzo, who was in the chat, Indie Comics and Reviews. He was talking about Not Brand Eck and Marie Severin. I really enjoyed putting that one together. My next one is going to be from Aggressively Relaxing. I've got to put it together. But he is talking about the fashion icon, Mr. Reed from the Fantastic Four. So that one's a little more difficult for me to put together, but it's going to be good when I do. Yeah, and Aggressively Relaxing is on YouTube, and we all know who he is, but we've never seen his face. But he comes on screen for this episode, so you'll get to see him live and in person. So that's what I got going on. And then, of course, every Tuesday night we've got your FOC and Chill or FOC and Chill on my channel, where we just shoot the shit. If we run out of things to talk about, then we'll talk about the FOC comics. But usually we don't run out of things to talk about. So we'll see what happens tomorrow.
Hell yeah, man. Well, sounds good. Well, I guess we'll wrap it up. Guys, be sure you flip over to Between the Lines. It's over on Travis's channel this week, TM Nerdy. And I'll be back next Monday at 7:30 with Mike from Evil's Comics. Appreciate you guys checking out the show, hanging out with us.
And check out Code City. Check out CodeCityComics.com.
Yes.
There's a lot of cool stuff going on over there, including some dope Rad Wraith covers. So link is in the chat. Definitely check it out. It's a pretty dope website, man.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much
Thanks.
for having me. Really appreciate it. That was awesome.
Man,
It was
dude,
nice
yes.
to get to talk. Yeah.
So much fun. We'll see you guys next week.
All right.
Peace.
Peace.